Okay, so today we're going to dig into something we've all been waiting for, the launch of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. Now, this was a huge deal. After years and years of development and delays, this absolute beast of a rocket finally had its big day, flying a commercial mission. But, well, things didn't quite go to plan. I think this comment from a space fan online just perfectly sums up the whole feeling around this launch. It's this mix of pure excitement and then total disappointment. That feeling of, yes, it's finally happening, followed almost immediately by, oh no. So what really happened here? Well, the mission had one main job: get a very expensive satellite for a customer into a stable, working orbit. And to be fair, the launch itself was incredible. The first stage booster came back and landed successfully, which is always amazing to see. But the most important part of the mission kind of fell flat. And this right here really shows you the gap between what they wanted and what they got. On one side, the target, a very specific, stable orbit where the ASTS satellite could do its job. But on the other side, the result, an orbit that was way too low. I mean, too low for the satellite to even operate or stay up there for any real length of time. So because the rocket couldn't get to that correct altitude, its entire payload, its whole reason for being there, was basically useless. The satellite was for a company called ASTS. They're building a space-based cell phone network, and now it's just considered a complete loss. It's actually going to have to burn up on re-entry. So yeah, the main goal was a total miss. And this, of course, brings us to the billion-dollar question, literally. How does a rocket this advanced, with this much money behind it, miss its target?
Right. This is what everybody wants to know: the engineers, the company, the public. And while the full investigation is still happening, all the early clues are pointing in one direction: the rocket's upper stage.
And here you have it, the first official word on what happened, and it's coming straight from Blue Origin's CEO, Dave Limp. He said the early data shows an underperformance issue. Basically, one of the upper stage engines just didn't push as hard as it was supposed to. So to really get why this is such a big deal, let's talk about what the upper stage actually does. You can think of the main booster as the muscle, right? It does the heavy lifting to get the rocket out of the thickest part of the atmosphere. But the upper stage, that's the precision instrument. It's the finisher. It does that final crucial burn to get the payload to the exact speed and altitude it needs for its final orbit. And here's the breakdown of how it all went wrong. The New Glenn's upper stage has two of these BE-3U engines. So when one of them isn't pulling its weight, you've suddenly lost a massive chunk of your power at the most critical moment of the flight. You just can't mess with orbital mechanics. You need that exact push. And with one engine lagging, the rocket just didn't have the oomph to make it. Now, a failure on this scale doesn't just, happen in a vacuum. It creates these huge ripple effects that touch the company, the customer, and literally hundreds of people who poured their hearts into this project. And it all starts with this number: billions. That's the kind of investment, the years of research and development that have been poured into the New Glenn program. It all led up to this one moment. The financial stakes are just astronomical. But beyond the money, there's a real human cost, and this quote just gets right to it. Can you imagine dedicating years of your life, all those long nights, those weekends, to one single project, only to watch it fall short on the world stage? The level of disappointment, it's got to be crushing. And I absolutely love this analogy from another commenter. It takes this huge, abstract, multi-billion-dollar problem and makes it something we can all kind of understand. It's that sudden, gut-wrenching feeling of a catastrophic failure, whether it's rocket science or just a very, very messy pasta sauce incident. It's brilliant. So the immediate fallout is pretty serious, and it's far-reaching. First off, no more New Glenn rockets are allowed to launch until they figure this out and fix it. Second, the FAA, that's the agency that has to approve these launches, is now required to oversee a formal investigation. And of course, the customer, ASTS, is out of satellite. So where do they go from here? I mean, it's a huge setback, no doubt. But what happens now? How do Blue Origin and its customer even begin to recover from this? Well, first, there is a little bit of good news in all this. For the customer, ASTS, the financial hit of losing their satellite is going to be cushioned. It's been reported that insurance will cover the loss of the payload, which, thankfully, is pretty standard for these super high-risk, high-value missions. And here's what the official process looks like for Blue Origin. The company has to lead its own investigation, but the FAA is going to be watching over their shoulder the whole time. They have to find the root cause of that engine failure, prove they understand it, and then show what they're going to do to fix it so it never happens again. And only when the FAA signs off on all of that can New Glenn get back to flying. And really, this all brings us back to a simple truth in this industry. You hear it all the time because it's true. Space is hard. It's a mantra for a reason. Rocket science is all about operating on this razor's edge of physics and engineering, where there is basically zero room for error. It's also really important to put this all in context. As a lot of people have pointed out, pretty much every successful rocket company, and yes, that includes SpaceX, has a highlight reel of early failures, explosions, and mishaps. It's just part of the brutal learning curve of spaceflight. Failure is often a very painful, but very necessary teacher. Which leaves us with this final thought. Blue Origin has the money, they have the talent, and they have a partially successful launch to build on. But after all this time and all this investment, the real question is still out there. What is it going to take to finally turn the incredible promise of New Glenn into consistent, reliable success? The whole world is watching to see what they do next.